Welcome, everyone. I'm Alicia Mall. I am the CEO and co-founder of GivePact, a crypto fundraising platform for nonprofits. We are hosting these monthly conversations where we can break down what is crypto and how it can help advance your cause. Steve and I met in college and have been working together on various nonprofit projects for over 10 years. It's a beautiful crowd. We're so excited to see you all with us and love to see this community, growing the way it is.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. A little bit of background about myself. I have run an digital marketing agency called Blueing for the past 6 years. Innocence Project, where Alicia works, was my first client. And with that case study, have worked with dozens of nonprofits, helping them with their digital fundraising and audience development. So my bread and butter background day to day is, paid social, paid search, email marketing, CRM integrations, all that fun stuff that goes into a nonprofit digital strategy. Been super into crypto for the last couple of years. And what I picked up along the way was that a lot of these, crypto projects, whether it was an NFT project or a DAO, and if you don't know what NFT or DAO is, don't worry, we'll explain. We're giving lots and lots of money to nonprofits. And so Alicia and I launched GivePact with the goal of helping nonprofits tap into this really amazing fundraising and organizing opportunity that we see coming. And so we're hosting this community call. It's going to be really informal. We're going to go over through the basics of Web3 and how you can take advantage. And then we'll open it up for any questions after the call is recorded. So if you have to hop off, no worries at all. We'll be sending it around to everyone so you can watch it on demand whenever it's best for you. Feel free to drop questions in the chat and we'll kick it off now. Already did some intros, but we do have a larger tech and product team that are amazing.
So what we are doing, what GivePact is and will be when we launch in the spring, it's a crypto fundraising platform to allow you to accept crypto donations. And we know there's fear around the volatility of crypto, so we will give you cash from that crypto donation. Of course, there's the technology platform, but it's a community. It's a community that we're chatting in Slack every day, where we're at the intersection of social impact and crypto. So we're excited to build this with you all. So feel free to say yes or just shout out. Does your organization accept crypto yet? Yes. Okay. Building Beats does. No, not yet. Working on it. Yes. Not yet. No. All right, good. A mixed group. Are you all actively working on a crypto or Web3 strategy? Haven't received anything. Okay, good point, Jose. Yup, no. Okay, Susan, you're in the right place. You're all in the right place. For those who haven't started, haven't thought about it till now, you're not alone and you're right on time. We're going to break down the basics of crypto and why it should be a pretty simple yes for you and your organization to get involved. I take it you all are already supporters and interested, so I don't think we have to do much convincing, but we will show you the monetary differences and exactly what the technology is. So as Steve mentioned, we got into this, we knew we wanted to do something to make sure nonprofits did not get left behind in the crypto wave. But what we didn't know is that the majority of organizations don't have any means of receiving it, which means donors who've accumulated all of these coins also don't have an outlet to give to their favorite local charity. And we've seen an incredible amount of growth. Giving Block, a leader in the space, went from 4.2 million in donations to 70 million a year later. That's 16 times. What we also know from these donors is they give 82 times that. Crypto donors give 82 times more than a cash donation. We've put together the averages And we're seeing that you can bring in 50 to 100,000 by making yourself accessible to crypto. And, you know, Jose, you said you have means to accept, but no donations yet. And so why we are different than the competitors is because we know that it's not enough to have the technology. We have to also help you cultivate the big whale donors and get you all out there. It seems like we're all on the same page that crypto is promising. And this chart is super compelling because it shows that the internet, crypto is growing as quickly as the internet was in 1998 in terms of users. So even in a down market, there are still more users growing. And this is at the time when you saw the Googles being built and the Facebooks being built. So it's a really, really perfect time to get in, learn, and start building in the space. You're muted.
Whoops. So what is crypto? We're going to spend a little bit of time in this presentation level setting and going through some definitions of what crypto is, what are some of the important pillars within the industry, and then what is Web3 and how that is different and complements crypto and how they're sort of tied together, but a little bit different. So crypto is all about decentralized networks built on blockchains. So this chart helps sort of map out what a blockchain is and how this process works. So you sort of think about a blockchain as a digital ledger, a decentralized database, something that anyone can access and use no matter where they are in the world, as long as they have an internet connection. So new data, so a transaction is entered into the blockchain network. A block is then created representing the transactions from that data. And that block is broadcast to all the nodes in the blockchain network. So for example, the Ethereum network has 442,000 nodes that validate the network. So that's 440, you think about it, that's 442,000 computers or servers that are validating all the transactions on the network and backing it up. And that's ultimately what makes it decentralized. You know, half of those nodes could disappear, or all of them except for one could disappear, but the network will still stay alive. And so this is a big difference from more centralized servers and databases that we're used to, that, you know, people might spin up their website on Amazon server, for example. And like you'll notice, like, you know, if you're using the internet, and you'll see that like Twitter and Facebook and like Instagram all go down at the same time because they're all hosted on Amazon servers, right? If Amazon goes down, half the internet goes down. They're centralized, they're one entity, whereas these decentralized networks are hosted on many, many, many different computers and servers. And that gives them the decentralization component and makes them extremely resilient, and makes it possible for anyone to access them and makes them super secure and trustworthy. So the block is then broadcast to all the nodes, they validate all the transactions. And then once that block is created, it's added to the chain permanently. The record of that transaction can be looked up by anyone. It's impossible to undo, and it's there forever. And that's what makes it a blockchain, right? Like these blocks are built for Ethereum. There's a new block every 10 seconds or so. And so as these blocks are created, all of these transactions are stored on the blockchain forever for anyone to look up, and that all these nodes validate. So it's a really different model compared to what you might be used to in terms of a centralized server. And so the most important blockchain networks are Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you sort of understand how these two work, you basically can kind of get your head around the rest of crypto. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency network. It was created in the wake of the 2008-2009 financial crisis. And it was created by an anonymous creator called Satoshi Nakamoto. Could be a single person, could be a team. But basically they wanted to create a decentralized monetary network that was not being controlled by any one nation. And so Bitcoin, really, from people that use it, it's looked at as a store of value. It's also used for cross-border payments. People describe it as digital gold. So it's not a coincidence that was created after the 2008-2009 crisis. At that point, we saw a lot of central banks increase the money supply significantly, which a lot of people got worried that it was going to debase the value of the cash that they had, and they wanted a way to preserve their wealth. And so Bitcoin, although it's extremely volatile and new, is looked at sort of like the new version of a digital gold, something that's really safe, it's non-sovereign, it's secure, it has a very fixed, predictable monetary supply that people know will not change, right? Like the amount of gold in the world is fixed, the amount of Bitcoin is essentially fixed at 21 million Bitcoin that will ever exist. So that was the first one. Then Ethereum comes along in 2016 and really innovates a lot on top of what Bitcoin could do. And so with Ethereum, introduced the idea of programmable smart contracts, saying you can use this blockchain to actually build apps where if something happens, something else can happen. And that really exploded the use cases for blockchains. Now people could build exchanges on top of blockchains. They could build borrow and lending apps. They could build social networks. They could launch NFTs and host NFTs on the blockchain. It really just opened up what a blockchain can do from just something where you just buy some Bitcoin and basically sit on it. Maybe you send it to a relative abroad if that's the only way for you to get the money. Whereas with Ethereum, there's a lot more you can do on top of the network. You can build apps, essentially decentralized apps that anyone can access on top of the network. So the same way, Facebook builds their social network on the Amazon servers, like I mentioned earlier, someone might come along and build a decentralized social media platform on Ethereum.
All right, those are probably the toughest concepts to understand. So if any questions come up, feel free to chat them. So what do crypto investors look like? They're younger and they're more likely to give to your cause. 1 in 3 cryptocurrency investors have donated their crypto to charity. They're more likely to be charitably inclined. 45% of crypto owners have given $1,000 or more versus 33% of all fiat investors. So that's a good sign. And then you have this untapped audience. 1 in 3 crypto investors don't even know that it's a taxable event to sell their crypto. So if we get them in and say, listen, you can reduce, your taxes, get a tax deduction by donating, there's cultivation, a lot of cultivation to be had. So that's the exciting part. Younger, more generous, and untapped folks holding on to it.
So I want to talk a few things through the sort of core pillars of crypto. And the reason that this is important is because a lot of these are going to tie into the case studies on crypto fundraising for nonprofits that we're going to go through. And so it's important you understand these concepts so you understand where the case study is coming from and how that benefited the nonprofit that was associated with it. So one core pillar of crypto is DeFi, or decentralized finance. So I mentioned earlier, people can build apps on top of Ethereum, and some of those apps that are more popular have been things like decentralized exchanges like Uniswap. So basically you think Coinbase as a centralized exchange, Uniswap is this decentralized alternative. Anyone can use their protocol to launch a token. You have on-demand and permissionless lending. So instead of going to a bank and proving your net worth to then borrow money, you can go to a platform like Aave and deposit your Ethereum or Bitcoin tokens and then borrow against it without any sort of credit check or any of the other roadblocks that might be there that block you from borrowing against your assets. And then there's also the transparent custody of assets. So all these transactions that happen in this financial world are all transparent. Anyone can look them up. Whereas, in the traditional finance world, a lot of that is obscured and inaccessible. So there's a lot more transparency in DeFi. NFTs exploded last year. And NFTs are non-fungible tokens. And so basically, I'll explain what a fungible token is. A fungible token is a token that can really be exchanged with another one, and there's no difference in value. So for example, 1 Bitcoin could be exchanged for another 1 Bitcoin, and they'll be worth the same amount of money. NFTs are unique tokens. They are one-of-one tokens. If you have a one-of-one NFT, it is not worth the same amount as another NFT. They probably have unique traits, unique properties. So it's like having, a piece of art from an artist and they only created one. You could trade it for another piece of art from the other artist, but it probably has different traits, different aesthetics, different look, created at a different time. So there's a bunch of use cases that have emerged around NFTs. One is the creator economy. You're seeing a lot of art, collectibles, media being published as NFTs so that people can buy them and own a verifiable version of that piece of art. I use the example of like the Mona Lisa, for example. Like people think if an NFT is just a picture, can I just copy and paste it? It's like, yes, you could buy a poster of the Mona Lisa, but it's not the real thing. And so having this NFT on a decentralized protocol where it's hosted proves that you're the owner. There's been a lot of community and membership businesses emerging out of NFTs. So there's a lot of communities that Alicia and I are part of where you have to own an NFT to get access. Gaming, if anyone's played video games and you unlock rare items, a lot of those are turning into NFTs now. So you could play a video game, put 100 hours into it, get a rare item, and now you can sell it on the open marketplace. So you're rewarding gamers with value for the time they put in. And something that's more speculative we haven't seen yet, but is something people are talking about is, on-chain ownership of physical assets. So imagine having, the deed for your house, on-chain. So it's like verified and, it's not stored in some, basement of a town hall somewhere where you don't know where it is. And the last one I want to mention is DAOs, which stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. This is basically a new organizational model that has become a lot more popular and useful in the crypto space. It's really an alternative to a traditional LLC or corporation. It's much flatter, less hierarchical. We're seeing it a big use case in the formation of capital. So there's venture DAOs that are being created where 100 VCs will come together, put their money in a shared DAO treasury, and then deploy it in investing in startups, and they'll vote on what startups they want to invest in. We're also seeing on the social impact side, we'll show an example of a couple DAOs later on where people are donating to a DAO treasury, getting a token in exchange, and then that token that they get in exchange for their donation allows them to vote on how those funds are used. So really transparent, decentralized governance of shared funds is a big use case for DAOs. Crypto is not perfect. We're talking a lot about the benefits of this new economy, but there are some drawbacks as well, and it's not going to replace everything. Number one, there's better incentive alignment between users and shareholders. So, now users get ownership over a lot of these protocols by buying the tokens. And so you become invested in the overall success and decision-making that goes on behind the scenes. Secure and reliable self-custody, like I mentioned earlier, these are decentralized networks that you can really rely on being live no matter what. So if you have assets on them, you can feel confident that they won't get taken away, that no one can access them. They're transparent, composable, and permissionless. Permissionless means that anyone can use it without any barriers. Composable means that they integrate with each other really nicely, and transparent in that you can look up all the transactions. So you can see what's going on, and decentralized governance, like I mentioned earlier. So instead of sort of top-down decision-making, we have communities like DAOs as an example, where the decision-making is bottom-up. Some drawbacks, these transactions are reversible. There's no customer support team you can call if something goes wrong. We mentioned how the blockchain works earlier. Once those transactions are processed, there's no way to undo them. So you do have to be really careful in how you manage your funds on chain. There are costly transaction fees. It can sometimes cost $5, $10, $20 to execute a transaction on the Ethereum network, for example, which can be expensive compared to using a credit card, for example. And regulation is still up in the air, and we don't really know when it's going to come through and what it's going to look like. And so we're obviously hoping for something that's fair, balanced, and preserves the innovation while protecting people from bad actors, but we don't really know where that's going to take us. And so that's still up in the air, and we'll see where that goes. So what is Web3? We see this thrown around a lot when people mention crypto. Really, Web3 is the movement towards the ownership economy online. And so we'll take a step back and talk about Web 1 and Web 2 first. So Web 1 was the information economy. It was this thing called the internet that came around that democratized the access to information. All of a sudden, you have a site like Wikipedia where you can access all the information in the world that basically came overnight. Google was one of the big players. Now you could search anything you wanted. You had things like the AOL homepage, New York Times going online. You could basically access information, any information you wanted on demand. Web 2 is the platform economy. And so this is apps. This is the age of apps. It's the age of social media. It's the age of Uber. This is now the internet becomes a two-way street, right? Like it's not just accessing information, it's engaging, it's actually posting your own content. It's getting deliveries on Amazon, it's ordering a car on Uber. Now the internet is something that you can engage with that is a sort of, again, a two-way street. And now Web3 comes along and we have these decentralized protocols where people are holding tokens and NFTs that really represent digital ownership. And I think if you can get over that hump of the idea of owning something digital, I think the idea of Web3 is something you can get your head around. For me, that's a pretty natural thing for me to think about. I mean, I'm 33 years old, I'm a millennial. I think about things like playing video games and unlocking items or having my iTunes library of 10,000 songs on my laptop or my photo collection. These things, like, I own them as much as I own the things on my desk. And for me, if we're going to own things online, they should be, in my opinion, they should be custodied on these decentralized networks and not with any of the players that we're used to engaging with, like Facebook or Google. And we'll talk about some of the advantages of why I think that and why crypto is an advantage for the custody of digital assets online. So again, Web3 is about the ownership economy. It's about owning digital assets and it's about custodying them on decentralized networks. So again, why is it important? So Web3 platforms prevent rent-seeking behavior from monopolistic players. In plain English, that means that Web3 cuts out the middleman. And so I'll use the example of Apple, which we all know, and OpenSea, which is the most popular NFT marketplace. Apple charges a 30% transaction fee to creators that publish apps through their app store. So if you sell an app for $1, Apple takes a 30% cut because you really have no other option to reach iPhone users than to use their app store. And Apple just recently announced that they want to charge a 30% fee on people that boost social posts through their iPhone. So they're really trying to be gatekeepers and sort of a toll booth on all commerce that you're doing on your phone. And 30% is like a lot. It's that's extremely high transaction fee. Look at OpenSea, the most popular NFT marketplace by a mile. They only charge a 2.5% transaction fee. And the reason that they can only charge 2.5% is because the NFTs that they have on their website to buy and sell aren't actually OpenSea inventory. Those are hosted on the Ethereum blockchain network, which is a decentralized protocol like we talked about earlier. And so OpenSea, anyone can launch a marketplace on top of Ethereum that has the same exact assets as OpenSea. And so if OpenSea raises their transaction fee to 10%, someone can come in and just make it 5%. If OpenSea is at 2.5%, there's been a bunch of marketplaces that have come in and made it 0%. And they haven't been as popular because they're not as user friendly, but you get the point, right? Like, because these assets are on a decentralized network, OpenSea can only charge so much, and they can't go to a 30% like Apple does because Apple has a monopoly on iPhone users. And so this is really, the point I want to emphasize here is cutting out the middlemen preserves value for creators and users. And this chart really emphasizes that. In the Web 2 economy, a lot of the value share goes to investors and the people that build the companies. Whereas with Web 3, a lot more value is retained amongst the users and creators that use these platforms. And for us, that's just a much more democratic and better version of the internet. And again, decentralized networks enable new organizational models that are more equitable and accessible. And so that's why when you hear Web3, for us, it's a really optimistic scenario for this technology to enable more democratic and equitable models.
All right, so we're going to look at some real applications of how organizations have been using Web3. And before we get into that, let's look at the founder of Ethereum. So we know, okay, thanks for coming, Daniel. We know that Ethereum is the second largest coin after Bitcoin, and it's made the technology, it's made itself more flexible and people can build on it. So this is a young guy, and he says, if we don't exercise our voice, the only things that get built are the things that are immediately profitable. And those are often far from what's actually the best for the world. Thanks, Lyndon. So the founder of Ethereum, who's sitting on billions of dollars, really believes in the utility of Ethereum to lessen some of the inequality and gaps in the world. And so I think that's what's very promising, is he's not greedy, and he really sees the technical application as a way to move society forward. So that's really inspiring to me in general. And I think it makes sense that social impact in Web3 really should be, partners in crime and getting things done. So example one, Choice DAO, they were a group of people with no crypto experience, and they wanted to raise visibility for reproductive rights as soon as the Supreme Court leak that Roe v. Wade would be overturned got out. They organized, and their goal is to raise $1 million in crypto for a variety of organizations supporting reproductive rights. They have Cecile Richards, who is the former longtime president of Planned Parenthood, and Reshma Saujani, who I think does Girls Who Code and has run for office in New York. And what we learned from this is anyone can start a project. And also it's not just the dollars that people put into the DAO, but the way you can organize volunteer labor. So if they have 1,000 volunteers and they're each asking 1 hour of volunteer time, that's 1,000 hours of pro bono hours given to this DAO. So there's really great ways to find people driven by one goal to get into action. Art Blocks is a very famous NFT platform where you get computer-generated NFTs by a famous artist, and they're giving 25% of their sales to Doctors Without Borders in this case. They've chosen other organizations, but for most projects, they're giving a sizable amount to a charity of the artist's choice. In this case, it was Doctors Without Borders Australia, so it's one of the leading projects we look to in this space. Women Rise, at a time where NFTs were going bonkers, it was really great to see women get visibility in the space. They've 10,000 randomly generated unique NFTs showing women in different expressions and professions, and they raised 7.4 million and counting, where a percent was going to women-centered organizations like the Malala Fund, Girl Effect, the PAD Project, and SOLA Afghanistan. Another favorite project is New Story, an organization that builds homes via 3D printing, 3D building to alleviate homelessness. They launched a project where they were selling one NFT or one family forever that would, for 2 Ethereum, which at the time was probably around $6,000. And this purchase went to build a house for a family in Mexico and El Salvador, in Latin America, direct utility. And then of course you have that forever, the memory that, you played a part in housing a family. So that is a super awesome project.
guess I'll quickly touch on New York Cares since I wrote a Twitter thread about it last night. But New York Cares published a NFT collection in October called Stand with Students. It was basically a fundraiser that benefited the schools in New York City most affected by COVID, where they saw lags or discrepancies in test scores and things like that. The NFT design was inspired by Winston Churchill quotes. But what was interesting is that they used the DALL-E image generator. And so DALL-E is like this AI, artificial intelligence, image-driven image generator that a lot of people are doing like fun, like jokey things online about. You might see on some of them going viral on Twitter and stuff. But essentially, they use like an artificial intelligence image generator to create the actual artwork. So they didn't actually have to hire an artist to do this. They took these Winston Churchill quotes and ran them through DALL-E to generate the art for the collection. So, I mean, they didn't have to like hire an artist, which is crazy. And so they raised $200,000 through this NFT sale. And this is the screen grab on the right is a video, just a snap of some of the creative, but also these are the listings on OpenSea. People were in some cases reselling them. And they've also raised an additional 173K through direct crypto donations as well. The driver of the project was Keith Grossman. He's also the CEO of Time Magazine and just really big into NFTs and a big influencer in the space. He's on their board. And so something to think about as a nonprofit from the nonprofit's perspective is, if you have an open board seat, would it make sense to, pick someone or invite someone from the Web3 industry that could really spearhead a project like this and raise a significant amount of money and drive a bunch of visibility for your nonprofit. So really recent case study that we like a lot. And that sort of segues into like our high level thinking around how nonprofits should approach Web3. And I know like there's obviously a lot on everyone's plate, especially in the nonprofit space. So, one bite at a time, like you'll get there. Number one is to learn. You're here, you're doing that. We do these monthly. So come back. We have the Slack groups. You can ask questions. We have a newsletter with the most important stories around Web3 and social impact that goes out every Thursday morning. So just learn. It's a really deep, rich landscape that, me being really into it for the last couple of years, still am learning something new and discovering something new every day. So, just start getting your head around the landscape is number one. Number two would be the partner. So number one, that means donation infrastructure. We're building donation infrastructure. There are platforms out there that can get you set up really quickly if you want to go that route and you need donations now. We can definitely give you some examples. If you just drop a line in the Slack group, we can let you know. And then outreach to crypto companies, NFT brands, and DAOs. So the same way that you have, systematic outreach for maybe federal grants or state level grants or the big foundations that you apply to grants to, like as you're learning and understanding the landscape, take note of the NFT projects or the DAOs or the companies that share and resonate the same values that you have. And reach out to them and see if they're willing to sponsor a donation, maybe donate an NFT, issue a grant to you. We showed a lot of partnership examples in our case studies of things like Art Blocks, where Art Blocks has a release almost every week. That calendar is publicly visible on their website, and every new collection donates 10 to 25% of their revenue to nonprofits. Go check out that calendar, look at the artists coming up. Find the artist on Twitter, drop them a DM, tell them about your organization if they would be willing to support your organization on their NFT drop through Art Blocks. It's really just about identifying the people that are driving this activity, that are generating this revenue, and reaching out the same way you do in any other industry. So partnering is a really good way to approach this, especially if you're not ready to sort of launch your own project. And that's really the third part is launch. And that's really for the most sophisticated, users of crypto or most sophisticated organizations. This means, staffing a Web3 lead or contracting with an agency for your organization. That means doing what New York Cares did and launching an NFT collection for direct fundraising. We think NFT fundraisers are going to be huge and just more and more popular over time. Obviously, New York Cares couldn't get that done without a Keith Grossman on their board. So it's not something everyone can get away with, but it's something that if you're starting to think about now, who are those influencers or leaders that you can bring into the fold to set something up like that for next year, for example. And then something we think is going to become really popular in the future is setting up sub DAOs to organize community. And we're starting to see that now with some of the more innovative organizations. One example is Civics Unplugged. They're basically a get out the vote for young people organization, and they launched a sub DAO called Dream DAO. And Dream DAO is really a hub for their Gen Z community, right? So this is a nonprofit that's like actively cultivating a Discord community of Gen Zers. And they actually sold an NFT where like a crypto person could buy the NFT, which funded Dream DAO, their treasury, and essentially sponsored like a Gen Zer to be a member. So they fundraise through it. So they raise money, and they're building a coalition of Gen Zers that are extremely engaged with the organization. And so that's almost like launching an entire other organization or community. But again, something we think is going to become much, much more popular in the future. We're just going to share a couple more things on GivePack before we open up for questions.
So we will launch with over 1 million nonprofits. However, we have a wait list for organizations who want to have a one-to-one relationship with us. They'll be able to connect your banking to our platform to get the donation immediately, and you'll have more support from us, and you can claim your PAC token. We didn't talk a lot about this, but we're putting 1% of our business into a DAO where you as an organization on the platform, you as a donor, you as a super Slack community member will be able to put forth proposals and vote on how we should spend that 1% treasury money. It can be mutual aid projects. It can be other tools that you need. It can be getting, resources in immediate needs like the war in Ukraine, or other environmental crises happening all the time. So we're excited about that. And on the next, and I'll just put the wait list on in the chat. And then here we can show you what the platform is looking like. You get to the homepage through breaking news. You click on donate now. Your organization has information on what you do, how to reach you, your impact, who else is giving. You click on donate. The donor connects their wallet. Put in the amount. We'll accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the main tokens in the ERC20. Confirm that everything looks good. And then if that is sent to your bank account, and hopefully the donor will show off all of the giving they've done. So now we'd love to open it up to questions. I know I brought up Twitter and how Twitter is the main mover and shaker in Web3. And there was a question about, do we think that is going to change? We've spoken to a couple of cool Web3 social media platforms, so I hope those take off. But I'm sure it'll be, another 6 months to a year to see what happens. But obviously it's unsettling given the leadership of Twitter right now. But I do encourage you in the meantime to those people in the NFT and crypto space are pretty responsive and active on Twitter.
One that's worth checking out that I think has a chance of breaking through is called Lens Protocol. They're LENS. I'll drop the link in the chat if I have a sec here. But basically, I think they have a couple million users already. But long story short, just claim your nonprofit's profile. And if they ever do a token drop, an airdrop in the future, you might just get some free money. There's something called airdrops in crypto where basically if you use a platform early and you're an early adopter, they'll take like a snapshot of who's used the platform and then basically airdrop free tokens, which in some cases can be 4 or 5 figures. So, the same way you would want to own your email domain, like get your Lens profile taken before someone else gets it. Maybe you'll get an airdrop in the future, and if Lens takes off, you have it hold down. So I think I don't know if Web3 social is going to become a thing or not. I think there's a lot of people trying. And to Alicia's point, I think there's generally not a lot of enthusiasm around where the major social media networks are going across the board. They each have their problems. TikTok's owned by China and maybe spying on us. Twitter has Elon Musk. Facebook is basically a nation state. Like there's a lot of things you could throw around about all of them. And so there is I think theoretically a promise for decentralized social media, but we'll see if it actually clicks. Is GivePack the DAO? Yes, we will have a DAO. Like Alicia said, basically we're committing 20% of our revenue to funding a DAO treasury. We're actually going to have 2 entities. We have a for-profit entity, and we are also filing for tax exempt status for a nonprofit entity, which would be essentially a wrapper for our DAO treasury. So 20% of the revenue that comes through our business is going to be, given to this DAO treasury that you guys on this call can then vote on how those funds are used. So we want to actually do some social impact projects with all of you with an ongoing source of income, which is going to be super fun.
What percentage do you keep of donations? What is your fee structure? We are charging every donation will be charged 90. Well, there's a 5% transaction fee per donation that is incurred on the donor, not on the nonprofit. And 4% goes to the C Corp GivePack business, and 1% goes to the GivePack charitable foundation, which runs the DAO.
And just some reference for where 5% comes from, that's what Giving Block charges on top of an onboarding fee. So we're going to be free to use. You can just claim your profile and use us. And in the cash donation world, as you all know, the donation platforms charge fees as well. Typically Visa and MasterCard are taking their 3%, and then the donation platform's taking 3% on the back end as well, charge to the nonprofit. So that's 6% total. So we're trying to be competitive. Obviously, we want to keep it as low as possible while running a sustainable business that is innovative and helps you get more money that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Is GivePack the nonprofit or LLC? We actually have both. So we're going to be a C Corp, for-profit entity, and also in a nonprofit entity, which will be our DAO treasury that you guys will control, which is super exciting. Financial standing, considering how weak the economy is, we are raising a pre-seed round right now. We are almost done, which is exciting. And we plan on being live, like I mentioned, in spring. We mentioned earlier, spring 2023. Alicia and I haven't paid ourselves a cent, which we could, but we're basically raising money to build this thing for you guys. So financial standing is perfectly fine. Thankfully, we have other ways to pay the bills. Yeah, Ben, I'll send a link around for Lens.
Thank you, Susan, for sharing. Is there a way to know if you're on the wait list? I can't remember. I think you are, Marcus, but we'll double check. What is the for-profit business selling the donation conversion service? Yeah, it's the technology for the crypto to cash, and it's just to keep things running smoothly and efficiently.
Yeah, a few things. I'll just quickly expand on that in terms of the value prop I think we're bringing to this space. we're donating the crypto to cash for you. So you don't have to worry about setting up an exchange account or wallets. You just get money wired in. So with some giving platforms, they actually help you set up wallets and exchange accounts, and you have to do everything manually yourself. So we're basically taking that off the board. You don't have to touch the crypto or know anything about it. The crypto donations that come through your gift pack page are just going to show up as cash in the bank, wired in, a couple times a month or something like that. The other thing we're doing is we're issuing the tax receipts to the donors through the Give Pack Charitable Foundation. So you don't have to worry about if you got 100 donors through your Give Pack page. We handle all those tax receipts. Yeah, that's right, Amor. That's, I think, a general good way. So the other thing we're doing is issuing the tax receipts. So from a reporting perspective, you don't have to issue tax receipts to these donors. You just, you'll get the wire in from Give Back Charitable Foundation. So really simple reporting. The last thing we're doing, which a lot of nonprofits that we've spoken with are worried about, is auditing all the transactions to make sure they're secure and coming from clean wallets, that the money, integrating with platforms that are going to be able to check wallets and make sure that they're not on the OFAC list or, any suspicious wallets that might be associated with hackers and things like that. So we're also providing that layer as well. So you can know that the money's coming from us and that we're doing our due diligence up front to make sure it's coming from clean sources. So yeah, for all those three reasons, covering all that is what the transaction fee covers. And yeah, Amber, to your point, nonprofits can use us for free. We're going to charge, if you get $100 donation, $95 of that is going to go to you. 4% of it is going to come to our for-profit company, which pays for all this stuff. And then 1% of that $100 will go to the Dow Treasury, which is the social impact treasury that we can use for charitable work. Yes, and anti-money laundering controls will be in place. You don't have to worry about that. We're doing the due diligence. I'm happy everyone's asking about Give Pack. Didn't expect that. You have a few more minutes. If any other questions come through, also feel free to hop on voice. No reason, Thank you, Charles. Thanks for coming by.
Hey guys, this is good to see everybody. This is Danny Rojas from All Star Code. We focus on computer science education for young men of color. I'm just thinking, like, are y'all possibly coordinating educational workshops, or like, I love the demystifying Web3, and it's something that we're engaging in with our community of high school aged future innovators. So just curious if that is already part of your Slack channel and conversations that you're having, or you're planning on providing resources for this particular aspect of the evolution of the internet.
Are you talking about like sort of Web3 coding support specifically?
Yeah. Yeah, or resources generally. Like we're going to start to sort of focus on some of that work with through our curriculum and programming. Just curious, like the use cases that you guys had were fantastic. So
yeah,
just curious if that's available.
So yeah, I think we have a lot of, we have a wiki on our website even actually that has a bunch of information. I'd say like we're sort of providing non-technical strategic information and support. So like things like going through the case studies, how to partner with Web3 projects, how to accept donations, how to think about it internally at your organization to take advantage. We are not going to directly do technical work or create education around technical work specifically. It'll probably be more non-technical, like what you saw in this presentation today. That being said, we are building a network of Web3 agencies that we could refer nonprofits to. So if you do need technical support, that's something we want to be a matchmaker. We're not charging you for that. We're just building like a referral list of like 10 agencies where if you say, hey, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, we can say, okay, you should talk to these couple companies. They're probably a good fit for you. So I think from that perspective, we can give you those lists. We can maybe even like, you can even maybe, if you're looking for, I don't know, jobs for your alumni of your program or things like that, like I think we can play a role there to help place maybe people that come through All Star Code and place them in the Web3 industry. And we can definitely hook you up with people with a more technical background that might be able to like do a webinar or something like this for people in your program. So I think there's definitely ways we can help. I think our core educational material won't be technical, but we are very connected to technical people and in the ecosystem and can like sort of give you some more specific recommendations as needed.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Building Beats is awesome. Marcus and Danny, you guys should connect. Sounds like you guys have similar goals, which is good. Recommendations for areas we should be paying attention to in regards to legal changes to crypto as the government works to find ways to regulate, especially as more legally, physically bound organizations compared to private for profit. So I will say that like, so the current regulation from the IRS perspective, crypto is a non-cash donation. So it's the same thing as someone donating stock or property or any other non-cash donation. And so really there's no difference from you accepting a stock donation. There's two things you have to do, as you probably know. You have to issue a written acknowledgement for every donation over $250, and you have to, the donor is supposed to complete a form 8282 for any donation over 5K, and then you complete the corresponding form 8283. And so we work with two law firms. One is a nonprofit expert, and like I said, we're incorporating a nonprofit entity that will accept donations on your behalf. So we have to do all this. We have to learn all this and know it and like in and out. And so from an IRS perspective, from a legal perspective, there is no real difference from accepting a crypto donation versus like a donation of like Facebook stock, for example. So that's sort of the current regime. As far as paying attention to what's going to happen, I think it's Senator Loomis and the other one, Joe and Brand, are working on a sort of bipartisan bill together. And I don't know the details of it, but there are specific protections for nonprofits. And I am optimistic politicians are going to make sure that nonprofits are protected from anything that might happen. So, if a nonprofit, I don't know, does an NFT collection now and for some reason issues tax receipts when they shouldn't have, I think there will be protections in there to make sure nonprofits don't get screwed for taking money that maybe the legislation in the future says they shouldn't have done a certain thing. So it's something that legislators are thinking about. I think they want to, if anything, they want to protect nonprofits and make sure that they can take advantage of these fundraising opportunities without getting in trouble. So yeah, the regulation is pretty clear right now as far as like how we treat it as a donation. And I'm optimistic that nonprofits will be factored in and protected in any future regulation.
And we have great attorneys who send us articles and also are working on this. So we encourage you to join our Slack group so that we can, get all that, make sure you have that breaking news as soon as we know it.